Thanks for coming, everybody. The idea about the hiking excursions, I usually take folks out to national parks once a year. I started with my own desire to go out and do something just because the months in Chicago, summer and then dark, and then summer and then dark, get a little monotonous. And sometimes if you don't have a projected summit or goal, you get tied up with work and holidays and short burst exercises. So I've always wanted to have myself accountable for some big thing. I'm shooting for Everest in 2023. And obviously if I just wait until 2022, that's not gonna be enough training, I don't think. So every year for the last 10 years, 11 years, I've tried to have one big summit. So Rocky Mountain, where'd you say you went before?
Hanson and the other state park district right up the road. I forgot the name of it right now.
Those are in Southern Illinois, I think?
Yeah.
What were one of the big cave, I think I've seen a couple right on the border of Kentucky. Nice rock formations. And it's actually a large park. And then right above that's Garden of the Gods. Yeah, pretty good, like 5 hours away, I think.
Yeah, we were actually supposed to go there and then COVID.
Oh, right. I went there once, it's about 6 hours from here, 4. That's the problem in being in Chicago. It also is really boring around here. When I just came back from Colorado and you get to elevation and you see everything in the majesty and nonstop, clouds, everything. And then you get back to Chicago and you go to a forest preserve, nothing against our forest preserves, but you really have to have a desire to stay training, right? We've done green trails, was it green trails in Lyle?
Yeah, there was one over there, not in Lyle, the one we did one also, we did the stairs.
Yes, yeah, Saguil Cliff Stairs, right. So that's kind of cool. If you've ever been to Saguil Cliff Stairs in Palos Hills, pretty nice. So maybe I should start with the basics. So anybody can, including people watching, anybody can get out to their local forest preserve. Usually what I would suggest is you use Google Maps, you find your address, and then you expand and you look for green, you look for water, or you look for sand. And then you zoom in on that area and just get some inquiries about things to go to.
We're going to Mallard Lake in Naperville. It's really nice. In there you can bike and also you can hike. There's hidden lakes back there too. It's pretty nice.
What's the name?
Wallen, W-A-H-L-E-N or something.
Huh. I don't know that.
It's on Bryce and like almost kind of close to 95th. You can bike ride all the way around it by New Beach River and
okay.
It's a really nice.
You'll have to remind me about that one. That's what I do to keep myself engaged and just to have something. And I do a little bit of research as far as the trail itself. So most trails are either loops where you start where your car is, you park, and then you go around and you end up there, which are usually kind of short unless you go to a state park like you guys. Or they're up and backs where you park, go, and turn around and come back. So regardless, you still get mileage, which is in a basic form, pretty good workout. So if you carry, to train for Colorado, I carry a full backpack. I'm just going to show people on the Facebook. Full backpack and 40-pound weight vest. And this is usually my backpack. So I have first aid supplies, but mostly just this. This, when you fill it up with water, 6 liters, is 3 liters, about 16 to 20 pounds, 17 pounds, and then a whole bunch of camera equipment. So it gives me resistance, just like rock game.
Yep, right.
40 pounds in a backpack is a lot of weight after about 3 hours. So you probably, where did you feel it as far as strain? Did you have any parts of your body that you could feel achy?
The legs felt the most. I mean, like the back, I think, because it just gives a sort of tactile, like, posture needs to be good.
Right.
I felt it more in the legs.
Legs, thighs, front thighs, or calf?
Mainly
hamstrings?
quads.
Quads, okay, all right. I might as well just dive into this. So one of the things that I like to teach my folks is that depending on the backpack, especially after a couple hours, when I go to Colorado, it takes 4 to 6 hours to do 14,000. So sometimes Do you have to have an adjustable? Is your ruck adjustable? Shoulder
Yeah,
straps?
Yeah, shoulders and the wrapper on the rest.
Okay, so I'll probably have, during our Devil's Lake excursion, I plan on having weekly seminars, just little get-togethers, and then we hit trail. So if you check on your handouts, I do have a scan this before you go, and I'll put it on the Facebook, but it has the entire agenda or itinerary for training. And you can certainly train here, or if you're far away, you're...
Lombard.
Okay, and where are you guys from?
I'm right over in Woodland Hills.
Okay, and got a couple people in Elgin. And so there's, regardless of where people are coming from, I think that if you do get out here, I'll plan to have a once a week, every Sunday training routine. The idea, because Devil's Lake is about 4 miles in circle, in the loop, is that you should have your legs ready for at least 4 miles. And for those of you who haven't been to Devil's Lake, it's 1,000-foot elevation. That's pretty good for Illinois. I mean, the closest I have to train with this stuff is Mount Hoy in Blackwell Farms in Winfield, I think, and that's about 850 feet. But it starts at 700 feet, so it's like 100 feet elevation. But there's no other way to train in this kind of incline. Unless you're on a treadmill, it's not the same. Hitting patches of scree or stone or changes in elevation with the feet, get your ankles built for proprioception. So I think it's always nicer to taste the trail, it's always nicer. So essentially what I do here in Illinois is up and down, up and down, up and down. And then do, like Taz, we do the endurance stuff every once in a while. But if we're going to have, I'm shooting for October 25th, that's a Sunday. So hopefully you guys can research the places that are available. I found a couple in Baraboo, Wisconsin, and or if you like camping, the Devil's Lake campgrounds are cheap, 20 bucks, I think, with electricity, if you just want to tent it, and that's fine too, because where the campground is just about 3 miles from where we start, or rally. We're going to rally at Red Oak Shelter. So again, if you scan the QR code, you might be able to scan this before you leave. You'll see a map and links. Those handouts have, they're the best I could do with the links, but that's all electronically on the blog. So Red Oak Shelter, if you look at Devil's Lake north to south, it's like that. The driveway comes in this way from the public. Red Oak Shelter's right here. Big old cabin where people used to have events. And then there's something called the West Bluff. Really beautiful in the morning. So as the sun rises this way, it's beautiful to see it come over the edge of the East Bluff. And then we go around, again, that's about 900 feet elevation. And then you go around water shore, and then there's another thing called Devil's Doorway up here, elevation, and slow woods till we get back to the normal. So there is a big parking lot here, campground here. And then Baraboo, Wisconsin is up here. So if you go to downtown Baraboo, if you want like a hotel, it's only about 15 minutes from Devil's Lake. So, so this is 4.6 miles. And there's elevation changes, and there's going to be stepping. So the stepping is also difficult to sometimes negotiate if you're not ready for lifting off. In physical therapy, that's called an open chain exercise, when you take your foot off the platform, versus like a power squat where you're pushing the weight like this, closed chain. Whenever you're doing open chain, it tends to cause the knees to have issues. Anybody with knee issues? Okay, I didn't mean to point to you. So if you're not ready for it, you have to train. And I'll come up with a training routine for everybody that might be able to, you can probably apply it where you are at. And I'm planning to do 4 different hikes locally. One will be the Morton Arboretum. Another will be the Swallow Cliff Stairs. Another will be where I trained in Blackwell at Mount Hoy. We might hit the cliff or not, I'm not sure, or the mountain or not. And then one will be a surprise. But if we figure every Sunday approximately 7:30 to 8 a.m., we all get out. I'll give you a 30-minute lecture of some sort, or a 15-minute lecture, just boots or hydration or training or equipment, and then we'll hopefully do this. Now don't be intimidated. You don't have to, and those of you who are watching, you don't have to be super fit to do this. And worst case scenario, if you look at Devil's Lake, 4.6 miles, if we all park here and you don't want to do any of this stuff, just go back. It's safe, there's a lot of people there. In October, the other thing too is, if you've never been there, for miles, you have green and green and green. So October 25th is when everything turns color. It's really beautiful because at elevation, you'll be able to see the scope of the landscape and the treescape. So that's why I was thinking about doing it. And I guess I might as well talk about just in case. So I booked a room at Baraboo, Best Western, I think it's called, and they allowed me to cancel. So if this is wet, that's too dangerous because there's steps here, so steps here, and a lot of steps that leads up the Devil's Doorway here. So with a little bit of water, I would want to not do that. So just in case, if I see the forecast on the week of the 25th being rainy, I'll probably have to just call it and make it a Starved Rock. Nothing against Starved Rock, but it's a lot easier, and there's not as many stone steps. So as we get closer to that, I'll let you guys know. And again, if there's any beginners that you want to bring along too, that's okay. Just get their legs going. Get them used to at least a little pack, because worst case scenario, if we do make it to Devil's Lake and they don't want to continue, they have to head back. But or if we get over here and they just decide that's a long trip back this way, just have to make sure that they have enough hydration, maybe a flashlight, and then food. And then usually cellular communication, you can sometimes get it here, and you get it here, but sometimes in the woods, maybe not, and sometimes in the base of the lake, maybe not. So I don't think we're gonna let anybody scurry off on their own, and honestly, this is really cool. So I mentioned before how the reason I want to do this is because of in taking people, usually I started with family members first, to excursions at national parks, and to take somebody to the summit, and then I'm feeling good at that point in time. But as I mentioned, kind of like a football game, you're going to have everybody just pushes the heck out of their bodies to the point of exhaustion. And at the end, you would figure two big exhausted teams. But for some reason, the winning team isn't exhausted. They are just fired up, right? I mean, they did the same clashing, they spent the same kind of ATP energy, but these guys are on fire. Probably partying all night, and these guys are still feeling bad. So this is what, even if you make, eventually I want to do Colorado with whoever wants to come. I'm going to be doing it again next year in July. But if you ever make it to that point, even if you arduously gone there and you were cramping up and everything, it's like, I don't want to do this, and everybody else says, let's go, let's go. When you get up there, all the pain goes away. Like the thigh pain, the cramping, it's like a piece of cake. Just something, it's called dopamine and norepinephrine. I don't want to get you bogged down on hormones, but that's what a winning team gets, and that's what you get on top of a mountain. So if you do, imagine if you have that feeling, if you've ever had anybody that came back from a vacation, they're showing you pictures for forever, for like the whole week, to an annoying degree. Like, I don't want to see those pictures again, but they can't help but show you the pictures because they feel so good here. And most likely their productivity is good, their craving is down, they're encouraged to exercise, their sleep is better. That's all from just one attempt at being happy. So if you can use nature to get happy with a little bit of endeavor and maybe a little bit of weight loss and a little bit of watching your calories and your food, I think it's worth it. At least for me, once a year is worth it and keeps me engaged till my big one in 2023. But it's so cool to have other people there too. So those are the dynamics of what we're going to do as far as the exercising every Sunday between now and then. The trails, again, they're very well marked in Illinois, and they're local, and most of them are 2.5 miles one way. And a couple of them are loops where you're committed, so it's 5 miles all around, but it's not that bad. And I think it's doable. So if you do fall in love with the kind of exercise that we're going to be doing, then we might want to talk about what to do in for a bigger summit. So any questions so far? The training, again, if you wanted to dive into it, the biggest thing that I had a problem with was this. So if you have weight on your back, the fulcrum is right here. And sometimes, as I was going to show you, after a couple hours, you get sore spots or hot spots. That's why it's really nice to have padding. It's also nice to have this waist belt and the Pec Strap. And this will be one of the talks for other folks that sign up. That if you adjust this just a couple of millimeters, or you pull this down a little bit, it changes the distribution of the weight. So even because my fulcrum is here, if I had 40 pounds, if I just move it up 2 inches, it changes the degrees, so it takes the pressure off of that one spot on my back. Also takes the pain and the rubbing off the shoulders. So it's nice to have equipment. You don't have to buy anything expensive. And I think REI does have after-season sales. If you don't have, I've collected backpacks over the years. You sometimes get a used backpack, but the only problem is you gotta get fitted for it. So this happened to be mine. It's not waterproof, but I don't really take too many folks into the rain. I've done it in the rain before. It changes the enjoyment a little bit. I got stuck at Old Rag in Appalachian Trail, and I got to summit, and I saw storm clouds, but I was about 3 hours from my car. So I had to get down I had to scramble down really quick, and I just run the rest in 30 pounds. I was eating all the food I could and drinking all the water I could. And then I didn't make it. It was just raining. I just slowed down and enjoyed it. Put my lamp on and looked for bears, but just kept on going. But that's the dynamics of this thing. So this might change too. I don't know, but I hope it's going to be nice weather. So that's kind of what I would like as far as Colorado is concerned. The estimate is July. If I can get folks trained with a little introductory now and maybe train so Colorado's tough. That you'll have to train for. Have to develop endurance. When you get to altitude, the less pressure of oxygen makes you really huff and puff. How high did you go?
About 12,000.
12,000 is very honorable. Very nice. Did you feel altitude sickness? There is a pill that you can take for altitude sickness. I gave it to one of the people in my hiking excursion once, and it does work. It makes you pee though.
Yeah.
So if you take it the night before, you wind up peeing the whole night, and you're okay for altitude, but then you're so exhausted because you didn't sleep the night before. So sometimes I'll just say, try to train as best as you can. One of the other things I've done, now there's no validity to this, but this is a restrictor. It just so happens, I mean, it looks goofy. Well, it doesn't look goofy now because of COVID, but
When you put this on, it really restricts can you hear me?
Yeah.
So it's like Darth Vader because it only allows oxygen in through this little port. That's how it looks. So actually these two ports allow it in, and you can dial in the port.
you can dial in the ports so it restricts it even further. So essentially, I got that from my mixed martial arts guys here. The toughest of the toughest guys will train like on a bike to just burn calories, and they'll be breathing through a snorkel. And I'm thinking, oh my God. But that's to build up respiratory muscle. And that's what I figured I'd do and also, I don't know if you felt it when you went to altitude. When you get to altitude and you're going like this to compensate, it's frightening. It's almost like I'm not going to say heart attack, but when you have chest pain or when you get short of breath and you're just walking, it's a little bit taxing, and it's like, what's going on? But at high altitude, you're oxygen grabbing. So I only assume that's what some of the COVID patients are probably experiencing, where they're not getting enough oxygen in, and that's got to be terrible. But when you have the perception already that it's okay, I'll be fine, then you don't get psyched out at 12,000, 13,000 feet. So I think it did help me, in addition to probably some medical cannabis in Colorado. But either way, whether it's a cannabis, so I went to buy, I think I had a video on this on my YouTube channel, went to buy topical cannabis, CBD heavy. and that usually decreases inflammation. It's not really a THC heavy thing. THC gives you a psychotropic effect, CBD, anti-inflammatory, COVID beating effect. So I bought a bunch of stuff with CBD. I just all over. And next day I didn't have any problems, which I should have. You know, delayed onset muscle soreness is 24 to 36 hours after your endeavor. When did you feel the pain?
A couple hours later, maybe.
12 hours later. Okay.
But it was, we had been doing it, sometimes we would do like double days, so we'd be feeling it from what we did the day before, and then we're just still gonna go through it.
How many days did you hike?
We got up to like 4 days, and we would just do like over at Raceway Woods, over in like Milford Road.
Yeah, yeah.
So it wasn't anything too strenuous, but there was a couple of hills there that.
Raceway's pretty nice. There's in the beginning, next to the parking structure on the Alpha 31, I think. You can go up and down and up and down, and then you get to the racetrack, I think. That's nice because of the mountain bikers. I think they're called Camber. They're an organization in Illinois that they made a deal where they can ride at some forest preserves if they maintain the trail, which is kind of cool. And they're very honorable. They'll tell hikers that are walking, coming through on your left. So I think that it's been a nice, and they've also burned new trails. So they've made that place nice. That's right. Yeah, yeah, it's really nice. So there are places you can go to. Try my technique where you kind of zoom out in Google Maps. Let's see. I think we talked about everything. I'm going to put this on the blog that I did as far as the structure. For beginners, you don't have to have any experience for this one. For Colorado, we do. But between October 26th and February is when we start training for Colorado. I'll be doing probably a once a month kind of thing, and it's going to get cold. So it's nice when it gets cold because you're not supposed to do this, but sometimes when all the trees are down, you can go off trail. You just have to be careful with the trillium. Trillium is very hard to grow, and deer like to eat trillium, and so I'm watching the stepping. In Morton Arboretum especially, there's designated trails, but sometimes when there's snow, you can't see anything, you're just venturing on your own, which is kind of cool. I've seen some coyotes and some animals that way. There's nothing here that's that predatory that we have to worry about. I've seen some coyotes at the valley, the one in Naperville/Lisle.
Oh, yeah.
But they're fine. You know.
Green Valley.
Green Valley, right. So, all right. No questions?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yes.
Training with heavy weights and or not, what is the pros and cons? I mean, of course, you're putting more stress on your quads and all and balancing. How does it serve you better?
So, the question is training with heavy weight. When you train with heavy weight, because of the extra load, let me put it this way. You know anybody that's lost a lot of weight, 30 to 40 pounds, they feel stronger when they lose all that weight because you are carrying on a backpack, but when you're starting out at base and then you put more weight on for a duration of 30 minutes to 3 hours, you will expend more work. You'll keep your normal stance and, you shorten your gait a little bit, but it's resistance training. So you build up a lot more lactic acid faster. And that's one of the things I'll put on I might have put it on your bulletins, but lactic acid threshold is something to get used to. If you're not used to it, that's the cramping that we were talking about. Sometimes the thighs burn. It's like, I can't do this anymore. And after a while, when you just ignore the burning, it might be hydration, so I'll talk about that too. But after a while, then because of the acid buildup, they start to cramp. No matter what you do, they'll cramp. So you have to listen to the body, but if you get the muscles used to lactic acid and a little bit of acidosis, and the liver gets used to, you take the lactic acid from the muscles, you put it back into the liver converts it over to energy, and it puts it out as energy back to the muscle. So if you get used to that system, it's called the Cori system, you'll be more efficient so that you'll be bulletproof to yoga, cardio, running, walking, exercise. So that's where it comes in handy to train with excessive weight. I don't think there's any other questions online. Anything? No? All right. So I appreciate you guys watching and coming. So check out the QR code. Actually scan it before you leave. And then you'll see the schedule of events. If you have any other questions later on, you can always put it to me through the Facebook Dr. Rick Hiking Excursion. And then we'll continue to plan, after this one, we'll continue to plan monthlies. I'll try to put out the schedule for the entire October till February hiking routine. All right? Thank you very much for coming. Thanks for watching.